Welcome to Brookside Chats. I'm your host today, Brooklyn.
I'm your co-host, Pojo.
Co-host as always, Taco here.
And I'm here as well, Connor.
He's our special
Yeah,
guest.
special guest. Very special. Yes, very special.
Yeah.
Feels.
So, Brooke, why have you gathered us here today?
Well, I want to talk about like the future and all the fun sci-fi stuff going on, but particularly the idea of like space exploration and space colonization. You probably heard by now, like Elon Musk is kind of like this cool dude that's trying to be like that weird, crazy uncle, trying to like be like, there's people up in the moon, and because he's a billionaire, he's actually trying to do it. And supposedly by 2024, 2026, he wants to get people particularly at Mars colonized and try to build his own little city on Mars. And I think that kind of brings back a point, like a question is like, what's that going to look like if it does work, or is it even feasible that can like Mars be colonized and be sustained without, like using copious amounts of money and kind of just bankrupting your company?
So, real quick, I think that base surface view on here, and for the listeners, if you don't know, I'm not a spaceologist, an astrologist,
Clearly,
as they would say.
No.
But
He has
I think
experience. He just looked at the moon and Mars once.
Anyways, I do think it is very possible that is in our near future, because now they have, I think with Omaze, Virgin Galactic, they have commercial space flights. I don't know what billionaire was like on the commercial for that one.
I don't know.
You guys
Was it
seen
Richard Branson?
Richard Branson.
Yeah, it was. But I think it's very plausible to actually be in Mars within the next 20 years.
Not only is it feasible, but it is kind of a human dream. Because if you have a colony somewhere else other than the current planet we're on right now, it means that no one event can wipe out the entire species. Even if, an asteroid were to hit Earth and wipe us all out like the dinosaurs, then we would still have people to propagate the species and continue the lineage.
So we definitely have the motive for it.
Yes.
Survival.
We have the ground starts of the technology for it.
It's baby steps.
There's a lot of interesting stuff that I think it's very kind of needs to get all logistically out. For instance, sustaining water, and as well as that sustaining life on Mars with plants. And I've seen some of the research that they've done is basically take dehydrated plants and rehydrated them. They're able to actually do different experiments, at least in space, to kind of grow with those plants. Or I think they're trying to see if they can work with the soil on Mars, but in a kind of isolated climate though.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work with the soil on Mars, hydroponics has been a majorly impressive business that is just getting
Extremely in favor of hydroponics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great technology. But yeah, it's all, we have a lot of good ideas, and there's a lot of theories on how we can get there. There's a lot of forward thinking, but we also gotta kind of think in the now, how it would work with logistics. I know we talked about there being ethical issues as well, questions that would be raised.
Real quick, what's an ethical issue to moving to Mars?
We'll get
Well,
to that
you
soon,
know,
young boy.
Elon Musk is planning on putting a billboard in space.
Okay, Elon Musk gotta stop shooting stuff into space.
Hey, that car is cool.
We'll talk about
The car with the spacesuit. Oh yeah.
But
Elon.
I think the first thing you mentioned that how do we sustain life, how do we sustain water, and
There is water on
There
Mars.
is, but it's frozen.
Yes.
So before you get into any other questions of sustainability of life on Mars, the first one you have to address is the lack of atmosphere. Without an atmosphere, you're, playing in the sand, basically.
The ultraviolet,
Yeah.
whatever of the sun.
Radiation will fry everything. Yes, you can live indoors for a period of time, but as we've seen with this pandemic, people don't like to be stuck indoors for very long periods of time.
Very
But-
true.
But here's the thing: in order to actually get to Mars, how long do you have to be stuck?
It's a couple of months, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
There's also like airlocks, and I think like you probably can like leave those facilities. It's just, I would assume like hypothetically you want to have like an airlock so you can be able to explore outside and travel a little
Well,
bit.
the atmosphere, the lack of atmosphere in Mars, couple that with the storms they have, like they have some serious dust storms out there. There's a lot of challenges. So I guess there's a lot of theories on how an atmosphere can be created in Mars. Some people have said just pump it with greenhouse gases, which, I mean, humans are great at doing that, so.
Woo! USA.
It's also really cold there.
It is very cold, yes, indeed.
But a big part of the cold there is because it doesn't have an atmosphere. It doesn't have anything to keep that heat in at the moment, so it's all just fading away. Also, you have to think of how many asteroids / meteorites hit the Earth every year. Those are tiny in comparison because they burn up with the air friction.
And they
Mars,
usually hit the ocean.
yeah, Mars doesn't have that protective layer or as much of that protective layer, so you get bombarded by meteorites and you're
Kind of frightened.
yeah, you're standing in a glass house while someone is shooting it with rocket launchers. I don't know.
You would
Yeah.
also have to
Rock
think
bombs.
another issue with actually living on Mars, to continue the point of feasibility,
And logistics.
would be the gravity difference, how that would actually affect the human health, which, as advanced as we would like to be, I doubt that we're going to actually be able to
Yeah.
master gravity
No,
to the
it-
point of altering Mars's gravity, or
It would mess with bone density mostly. Since it's lower gravity there,
you would be bigger.
I would
Be taller.
would think you would be taller.
Yep.
So hey, if you're feeling short, bonus, sign up to go live on Mars. I'm also not an expert in this field, nor am I trained to talk about this. I'm just coming up with BS off of the top of my head.
But it's true.
Well-
It would affect your bone density. I mean, you see it when people come back from the space station. They have to be supported when they return because their muscle is kind of an atrophy.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about sustaining themselves as much. So when they come back, they gotta get some support to build that strength back up.
So, with all that said, moving back to the original topic, which was the
Futurism and space exploration of like Mars and all that.
so with that said, we've covered the hurdles. Now,
One of the major hurdles.
One of the major ones.
wait,
I
only
get what
one?
you get. Yeah.
How many do you think?
I'm
there's
sure
moving
there's
in?
plenty.
Yeah.
I think that so we've expressed our doubts. What are our hopes, I guess, or I'm lack of the right word, but
Plain
looking forward to it.
I
Could like what points towards we could do this?
I get what you're getting at.
Yeah.
First off, availability of resources. It is. Earth has a limited amount of resources, and you've seen what we can do with that. if we, explore out, if we branch out and are able to get more of basically anything at this point, there's helium deposits on the moon that you can mine at this point.
Plus different like ores and stuff like that.
So availability of resources does make this more likely to succeed. Now, there's this fantastic book series that I've been reading. It's called the Bobaverse. Basically, a guy gets hit by a truck, wakes up 200 years later as a sentient AI, essentially, and is stuck in a spaceship that has a built-in 3D printer that can print with anything, not just plastic. And his task is to go out, explore, gather resources to make more of him, to then go out and explore further. And it's called a Venn Diamond probe, something like that.
I don't think we're gonna get quite to that point in 200 years. But you do make a good point.
It's a nice thought.
Well, no, he actually makes a good point, because with the lack of resources, this is gonna actually be like a unifying force that humanity, I feel, would come together being like, oh, we're gonna all work together and not worry about the finances too.
I think
hey,
it would.
don't give me that look.
I'll play devil's advocate because I have
No,
less
no,
hope
no,
in humanity than you do.
Okay.
So, I think if COVID taught us anything, is that humans are shit at working together.
Language.
It's been 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
been
don't care.
called.
The other
Yeah.
thing is, you are a teacher, so I guess I understand. I think when you look at who is funding the space race and who would be getting access to those resources, it comes down to capitalism and it comes down to money. They're not going to want to share the wealth. There's going to be partnerships among companies, but it's going to benefit a few and not humanity as a whole. So what do we have besides getting those resources that benefit us?
My counterpoint to that is, to the point where I think we're gonna get, which is, we're all like crapping our pants being like, oh, if we don't figure out something within the next year, we're boned. I feel like that's when we're gonna drop this capitalism and do what we have to do to survive. Because I do feel like most people think that any alternative is better than extinction.
I don't know, an extinction event could be fun.
Well,
Anyway.
Well, that's what I'm trying to prove, that, I mean, humans, as much as we like to disassociate ourselves with animals, we still have that drive to survive, the survival of the fittest. And what we've seen so far is human ingenuity, socialization, and the intelligence that humans possess has made us able to colonize and conquer most of the world. And I think that that's what we're going to tap back into towards the if this hypothetical event were to happen. And it's not a altruistic action. It would definitely be probably the best of the best that would be saved, not your average Joe Schmo.
So I guess this goes back to who are the people that are going on these space trips? Like, we talked about Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson. Tickets are selling for what, over $100,000?
I think realistically we know what the answer's going to be.
Yeah,
it's going to be the ultra rich. Yeah. It's going to be your billionaires.
Well,
it's going to be.
There's a good reason for that.
I wouldn't say that though.
No, but right now there is. That's how it is.
That's because we aren't in the oh crap moment.
No, beyond that, it's just because space flight and space exploration is so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta fund it. Now, I think where people are trying to get to with commercialized spaceflight, private companies, is making it a business model where more people can afford it. Now, I do agree. I think we'll have, colonies on the Mars or the Moon within our lifetime. I would be surprised if it was within the next 20 years. I just don't see that quite yet, but I hope I'm wrong, because that would be really cool.
I think all of us hope that it's within that time period.
Just so we can see it and say it happened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. You could see it either
cool.
way.
That'd be
Anyways,
really
back
cool.
to your point.
Yeah, but it's a matter of finances right now and logistics. It's really expensive to do space exploration right now. So NASA's budget last year or this year was $23 billion, and that's a government-funded agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk's, Jeff Bezos, all those are privately funded, so they don't have access to that kind of money. Although Amazon, if they wanted to, they could easily. But the point being here is, NASA doesn't have as much of, I guess, a kick in the butt to be as efficient with their money as SpaceX or Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic does, because they don't have any stockholders to respond to.
I actually have a counterpoint to that real quick. So, I have a buddy who actually works for the Army who does aeronautical flights, I believe what he called it, and outer space flights. So, it's really expensive and slow for progress really to be made because of the sheer amount of bureaucracy there is.
That's the other thing. Bureaucracy in the government, where you don't get that as much with private companies.
Which leads back to my point that once we hit this oh crap moment, I think the government will drop this, oh, you need to get approval from XYZ, wait 10 days, write a novel, essentially.
I hate to kind of relate this to kind of current events too, but when 9/11 happened, how many Democratic and Republican senators were like, oh, we gotta go to war with terrorism and stuff like that, and how in unison, because it was kind of like that oh shit moment. So you could see that.
Or even closer with COVID, how fast we got the vaccines through the process, which we usually take 10 years, but I don't want to get to the vaccine.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a side chat. Write that down. We'll do that right after here.
Y'all talk about vaccines. You have to have me on.
Yes, we will.
Okay, but back to space exploration.
Yeah, anyways, side chats later.
Yes, but bureaucracy, government, humanity being like, oh shit, we're gonna die. But that goes back to the point that I made earlier, on or off air, which was humans like to wait till the very last moment, and is it going to be too late when we get that oh shit moment?
Well, if it's too late, then, we're in the hands of nature of the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Which, maybe. Who knows?
So getting back to the actual topic on hand here, if we're talking about colonizing Mars, we can't just use money, right? Or we have to do a different type of money, because there aren't any trees up there, so it's hard to produce paper money. So
paper money's actually made out of cotton.
There's no cotton up there either, is there now?
We could just use electronic.
Well,
yes,
regardless,
we are going to be using either Bitcoin or Mars coin.
I will argue that.
Trade or barter with
rocks.
No. There's plenty of rocks
there
up there.
That's an influx of too much wealth.
Is that why Elon was...
Hold on a second. It's not gonna go to that. It's probably not gonna go to electronic, because the internet's not gonna be a thing. Shush.
You don't think the internet's gonna be a thing up there?
I highly doubt it.
100%
guarantee. Regardless, I think that
thing.
it will devolve to the most basic form of economic currency.
Prostitution.
No, what? No, things that are valuable, like food,
What?
water.
Barter
It's
system.
frozen.
Well, no, not if you bring it up.
Oh my! Do you think that if we colonize Mars, it's gonna go back to the medieval times? Is that we're gonna spend
At least
trillions of dollars
economically,
on high tech?
Economically, that's what's gonna happen.
They're gonna be bartering with cows and sheep up there.
Assuming cows and sheep
I'll
are
take
gonna be
one
Get
red.
outta here.
I wish.
I'll take
They
one.
kidnapped me.
Listen, I'll take one red rock for your 20 milligrams of frozen water, please.
I would like
So-
to imagine someone could throw a rock from Mars to Earth and just have like the lack of gravity take it all the way there.
No.
Also, you know,
let's-
the whole thing with the Bitcoin, by the way.
Okay,
it
back to
actually
the main
does.
point though.
It does make sense, cause like now I'm thinking about like the time that like Elon was like really producing, or really like going about like Dogecoin,
Mm-hmm.
And-
Dogecoin.
like making that a big deal, and I was just like,
Well,
huh.
you
Now
guys
it
did
just
hear that the World Bank is moving off the U.S. dollar into just an electronic currency.
Yeah.
is that where like Bitcoin comes in?
No, I think they don't have their own. But
Okay.
you were saying?
Yeah, I was actually going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. I don't think bringing animals up there is the way to go.
Mm-mm.
What I think would
Fetuses.
happen, it might be fetuses, but here's the other thing: is with the
Animal
breakthroughs.
fetuses, just to be clear, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. You had me there for a sec. I was like,
We bring some
what?
stem cells up
Yes.
there.
Yes, we'll just eat children.
Anyway, animals.
With the breakthroughs of
Clones.
3D printing technology, and I'm gonna get into this with the Impossible Burger.
Yes.
You're making
Isn't that
basically fake meat out of plant protein, which is pretty simple in general. There have been experiments with 3D printing this.
Keep that point.
There has been some experimentation with these experiments of 3D printing this fake meat, as you put it, which is protein, which is important for a human diet, as we are omnivores. I personally, I would prefer having the source of protein and the source of meat be from vegetables and from growth of plants, since they're a little easier to take care of than animals, and
Require a lot less space.
they're less space, they're more mobile, it would be a little bit easier. So I would see that being the main food source. And if you're talking about that, there's a concept of what you, like you said, what is valuable. If you're talking about what is valuable, the most valuable thing is printer time.
Assuming that we take
Yeah.
out these printers.
Yeah, so it would be, I will trade you 15 minutes of my printer time for you to make me a burger. Now that's,
This sounds like a parent and child relationship here. Like, oh, you only get 15 minutes of printer time.
No, but it's
no.
a trade. It's a service.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
buying a service there, and that actually would
And
make
you have
sense.
and you have a limited amount of, I guess, time
yeah,
in this case.
Printing
because-
takes some time still, and that's probably going to improve with time. But for now, it makes sense. I like that. I like where you're going with that. Where you're thinking about it. I do. That makes a lot of sense. So we kind of figured out how we can get food up there. We're not gonna ship cows up there. We're gonna print fake meat, impossible meat.
I think it'd be
But-
funny if we just like sent cows up there, like,
Oh,
like
there-
not even like
I-
just had jetpacks.
Okay,
You know?
so there has to be. I
There's gotta
feel
be
like,
animals up there.
yeah, without a doubt, there has to be
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah, there's got to be.
But-
for some reason or other, petty juice or
Changing the lens of
survival
view,
of it.
though, because don't get me wrong, economics and food is extremely important. But what another important factor, I guess, for human society, since we are making another society out there in this hypothetical, would be government. How would it be governed? Would it be capitalistic, communistic, or anything in between?
It's going to be a dictatorship run by Elon Musk.
This would be a new...
Or would it be like monarchy?
No. Exactly what would happen is they would break off and we would have a new revolutionary war. With us being the British.
First thing we
I
do when we get to space, war.
Exactly.
Well, no, I don't...
Is there oil
That
on...
wouldn't work out.
Is there oil on Mars?
Cool.
Well, no.
No.
Yeah.
I think that we... I don't even think trade would be that effective, would it?
No, because the availability of resources is...
Like the rocket fuel
gigantic.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
there's
we don't know
minerals
what's
up there.
actually on Mars.
Eh,
Like, we don't know if there would be the fuel needed to actually make the trip back and forth.
Kind of. It depends on what fuel would be used, but there are ways of breaking down, regular air into a fuel source.
Oh, yeah.
Hydrogen,
So,
isn't it?
yeah. And since we don't have many people up there, or many things up there right now, there's not a whole ton consuming hydrogen.
Yeah. But
Now, these processes are expensive and time-consuming.
yeah, but I feel like at that point, like I said earlier, we would be foregoing these expenses and bureaucracy.
Now, you're looking at this as setting up a colony at the last minute. I'm looking at this more of a...
Something we started to think about 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we're still in the process of.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of this is just being set up as a new place.
Okay.
Not last minute, not end of the world
Apocalyptic.
stuff, yeah.
Okay, I apologize, man.
No. I just wanted to clarify where
Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
coming from, yeah.
Bad Pojo, bad.
Oh! Not the spray bottle. Anyways, back to your point.
I don't remember what my point was. What
So
was I going off
the
about?
type of
hydrogen,
the
energy.
the
Oh.
basic what the question I was asking was the basic type of government to govern these people on Mars, because I doubt that like any country on the Earth would have that
Well,
connection. I might be wrong.
the
I'm
real
not
question
a
is it going to
technologist.
be a country that gets up there first, or is it going to be a private company? If it's like the U.S., China, or Russia that get up there first, then they'll probably impose their rule on Mars.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if it's a corporation like Tesla, what you're going to have is the CEO of Mars, the vice president of Mars,
Well-
vice president of finance. You're going to have a corporate structure. I feel like that would probably be how it'll run. And I don't know if that's such a bad thing, as long as it's kind of a democratic thing where you can, vote. But at the end of the day, it's at the mercy of whoever gets there first.
Honestly, I could see this being like a country commissions one of these private companies to do it,
I could see that.
See that, yeah.
rather than the private company being like, "Oh, let's go to Mars and
NASA
colonize it
is
for free."
working with
Well, the
SpaceX.
government, well, yeah,
Yeah, there's less a partnership of government and private that's working.
yeah. So
That
it's
cool.
contracted out.
Yeah.
What if there's an uprising
But-
with the colony with the private company?
They won't last long.
Okay.
We've dealt with so much science fiction written about that. I'm pretty sure most people know
But
how
I
it would
need
go.
science faction.
Won't know until it happens.
Fair enough.
Well, okay. So, food covered, economics covered, government
What else are we missing
vague.
from a society colonizing on Mars? Well, what else are we missing? We're entertainment.
Shelter.
Entertainment.
Well, shelter would be implied through the colonization.
Actually, no, that's a good
I-
question. If we don't create an atmosphere there soon enough,
Mm-hmm.
and we start colonizing, should we build underground or above ground?
Underground is tough.
It would be very tough, yes.
It's about as cold as cold, and it's roughly about the desert, as in landscape-wise.
So
Thank you.
So very little water, very little anything else other than sand.
But what you get
Except
is
it's
protection.
freezing.
You get protection from the surface storms, the ultraviolet rays, and meteors.
Oh no,
potentially.
this is just on the surface.
you would also potentially get extra layers of insulation, so you wouldn't have to be heating as much.
Right.
But that also implies that there's a rock or a solid layer beneath the sand.
What do you think is
Which no, don't get me wrong.
what's
I'm-
holding the sand up?
Gravity.
Oh my.
Holding
Shush.
the sand up, huh?
Well, okay, shut up. Anyways, I think that a lot of places could just be, sand.
You don't have as much erosion, so you wouldn't have as much cave access.
Yeah.
You know what would be if colonizing Mars became an actual thing in the next dozen or so years? I'm getting off on a completely different tangent of what jobs would be created.
That's a very good
Oh.
question. That's a very good question. Very
Mining
valid.
for sure, farming,
Of course.
Geological study for
sciencing.
geological study specifically to say this is a good spot to build things on because of this part, and this part, versus this is a terrible spot. You can tell because wind erosion has taken away the
Too
rock
much
face.
sand.
Yeah,
You don't want to build your castle on sand.
but I was getting off on a tangent there that I didn't.
No,
that's a
that's
good
also that's another good
Other
point.
jobs would be created on Mars. I mean, you would need medical for sure.
You need a communication specialist because you probably want to communicate to Earth. 'Cause
Yeah,
we're
have
not.
social media
Yeah.
specialists also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta keep
Gotta
that
have our
Instagram
Twitter.
and Snapchat
Okay, yeah, but here's the thing. How many assuming just starting off, I don't think social media would be,
According to Pojo, there wouldn't be internet. It would be the medieval age.
Okay, no, let me stop you right there. I'm not saying there wouldn't be internet.
Well, we need like
Priest,
smoke
high
signal.
priestess.
So to communicate to Earth, we need a giant fire,
Yeah, we
and we
need
need to use smoke signals.
Smokes.
String and cans.
It's just one long line.
Space elevator. But no, I'm not saying there wouldn't be an internet, and I know this is a side chat to the jobs, but like, I don't know if the internet or the satellites that contain the internet or transmit the internet or however the heck internet works would reach Mars.
We can make it
You would-
do that.
Can we?
Yeah.
You
We're
would
gonna
I don't know
build
this.
more satellites as kind of a path there.
That just seems like it's
How do you think?
kind of dangerous.
How do you think
Well, what
that's the Mars rover sends images back?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Smoke
Magic?
signals. Clearly.
One of your
Smoke.
first spaceship or ships that would be going there
Spud nut?
would contain just a bunch of these satellites that drops at certain points, measured out,
Yeah.
perfectly for how far away they need to be from one another.
It would just
But
be a
like-
network, a link of satellites that would
Yeah.
be built or just created a path.
Though I don't know if you would
I
be
I
able to
feel like they-
qualify them as satellites since they wouldn't really be orbiting anything.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi
that's
routers in
my
space.
question. What's gonna keep them in place? Because they can't stay there forever.
What's gonna
Yeah.
The lack of. It's just gonna stay there
Well,
floating.
what would force them out of position?
Gravity. The
if
sun.
you're, like-
Any nearby planet. I feel okay. So I'm gonna be honest here. I feel like there's a lot of calculations into that, which I'm
Yeah.
sure they can figure that out.
If
You
they're-
know,
if they're
granted, none of us
colonizing-
are
If
starologists.
No,
they're
we're
colonizing
dumb.
Mars, they are going to figure out the internet before they even figure that out. Like,
Of
Yeah.
course.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who
they
would
want.
to go to
They,
Mars without the internet?
You
I
want
would.
Netflix and chill up there, you know?
Exactly.
Not like that.
Chill with who? Like just look look at some
Jabba
round
the Hutt,
rocks
bro.
and be like, oh, you look
Hey,
you
babe.
mighty.
Jabba
These
the Hutt,
rocks
he's gotta
put
catch
together
up on
sort of
Stranger
look like a
Things.
butt.
Okay.
Anyway, I was gonna say, in conclusion,
God,
let's
you're all drunk.
bring this down to one thing. Does the cost outweigh the benefits, or do the benefits outweigh the cost?
Brooklyn, you start.
I think the cost outweighs the benefits for now, unless we have like a environmental impact, or like just a lot of people want to flee like the planet itself, and you just have a lot of people that are interested in like kind of like going towards that ordeal. So
Okay, Taco.
I think the cost outweigh the benefits right now. Focus on fixing Earth before you go on impregnating other planets. It's like
And
focus on Earth first.
it depends when. I think right now the cost would outweigh the benefits. Or, yes. And later down the road, once we hit the oh crap moment, I think the benefits will outweigh the cost.
For me,
Or special guest.
I'm gonna have to disagree with y'all. I think the benefits of focusing at least, what the private companies are doing, having them focus on this problem first is gonna benefit in the long run before it costs too much to keep the programs going.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Again, thank you
Yeah.
all for being here.
I believe
Special thanks to our guests.
it means a ton for all the listeners out there to actually listen to us. It makes us feel warm and fuzzy.
It means a ton to all the listeners out there.
Yes.
No, okay.
So this is Brookside Chats. I'm your host today, Brooklyn.
I'm your co-host as always, Taco.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming out. I've been your absolutely fantastic, super special, awesome co-host, Pojo.
And I've been the special guest, Connor.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful